When you want to filter rows from a query, you use a where clause. But when you want to filter out entire groups from a group by query's results, you will use the having clause. Let's create a query. This table lists out every product, and one of the columns describes the color of each product. To find out how many products we have with each color, we can write a query that uses a group by clause and an aggregate function. I'm going to modify this query to select the color column, as well as create an aggregate column that counts up all the records. We will call the second column as number of products. Then we're going to pull up from production.production table, but I'm going to add a group by clause to group records by color. This query will show us how many products there are for each color. Now we have a number of different products that don't have a color, they just have a null value in that column. To filter out all of those records from the results, we can use the where clause. I'll add that up here after the from clause. The line will simply read where color is not null. This time when I execute the query, we'll move from 10 rows down to the total of 9 rows. And you can see that we no longer have that null row. Since all of the rows where the color was null have been filtered out of the results, there are no rows in that group and the group is removed from the results. But what about if I want to filter out these results and only see the colors that have more than 25 products? I can't use that in a where clause, since the where clause only evaluates each row within the group. The count of rows is only an attribute to the entire group, not an attribute for each individual record. So this is when you turn to the having clause. The having clause is placed after the group by clause. In it, you specify the predicates that can be evaluated as true or false for each group, and then the groups that don't meet the criteria are filtered out of the results. However, there's a bit of a catch. If you wanted to filter out the results to see the colors that have more than 25 products, you might need to write it out like this: having number of products greater than 25. This query attempts to make reference to areas that was created up above in the select line. However, if you execute the query, you're going to get an error. The error says the number of products column is invalid. This is because the query engine actually processes the having clause before it gets to the select clause. And since the areas isn't defined until the select clause is processed, the query engine doesn't recognize the areas as a valid name yet. So instead of saying having number of products greater than 25, we simply need to perform the aggregate calculation here again instead. I'll change this to having and then count of star is greater than 25. This will filter out all of the groups that have less than 25 inside of them. I'm going to execute this query and then we get the final results. This shows us the 5 colors that were used more than 25 products in the lineup. So remember, when grouping records together to get summary statistics with aggregate functions, use the where clause to filter out individual rows from the groups, and then use the having clause to filter out the entire groups from the results.